Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. I was kind of debating about doing this video. I saw the Black Panther movie. Where to start? If you're looking for a quick review, here it is. I gave it a 5 out of 10, and that's me being very generous with this movie. Um, but I kind of wanted to explain my 5 things that really bothered me about Black Panther and why I would give it a 5 out of 10. And I sort of broke it down into 5 things. First being the motives. That's kind of the whole big picture for the movie. What are the motives for each of the characters? And really the primary motive that we have to understand is the motive behind Namor or Namor. Just, okay, so what is his motive? Well, Wakanda has now opened up its borders and basically said, hey, look, we're here. And as a result, the world is asking Wakanda, hey, can you help us out? We just faced this Thanos level threat, and your vibranium would allow us to defend against future threats of that magnitude. And what does Wakanda say? Oh, you silly white man. You silly white man. You're too immature to, have our vibranium and, basically go screw yourself. So that's Wakanda's response, basically. So, the silly white men, being the United States in this case, decide that, okay, well, if Wakanda is not going to help us, we'll look for vibranium elsewhere. And they did. They get this machine that they can use to detect vibranium. And that allows them to find it. But they don't find it in Africa. They find it in the Atlantic Ocean. And they send down a team where they find that they've located vibranium. And they go down and lo and behold, Namor comes out and attacks them and wipes them out and wipes out the facility that was doing this search. And that is the beginning of the interaction between Namor and or Namor and Wakanda, because Namor, geez, it almost gets into your head when they mispronounce it that way, is now going to Wakanda to basically say, hey, look, we got this common problem where, you guys have been, isolated as well for a long time, and you just recently opened up, and you basically caused us to get some grief now. You've basically gotten all these people to check us out, and we don't want to be exposed like you are. So, please help us by getting rid of this scientist that has made this technology that can find us and detect the underwater vibranium. And, that's the premise. That's the motive that Namor wants to get Wakanda's help to get rid of this scientist. Now, why? Thinking about this, well, what does that even make sense? When they located the vibranium in the ocean floor, well, that would be instantly tracked. That would be knowledge that would be spread around within the United States, around the United States. It would be known that there's vibranium at that location instantly. So even if they go after that scientist at this point, kind of too late. Kind of too late. And the machine that she built, this scientist, which is actually Riri Williams, well, once it's been built, it's not like Riri Williams goes out and it's only her that has this machine shop that they can build this machine. It doesn't work that way. It's probably been something that's been replicated, and maybe there's multiple versions of the same machine. They don't just build one and then throw it at the bottom of the ocean and hope for the best. Even though that they said that in the movie, that's not what you do. So that's not what happens. So there's probably a dozen such machines, or at least the plans on how to build a dozen of those machines. And they can keep on going back there again and again. So this getting rid of Riri does not solve the problem. So that's the motivation doesn't make sense. His motivation is really weak. Now, let's look at Wakanda's motivation. Now, Wakanda, if we accept the reality that one scientist, taking out one scientist will really make a difference. Well, what's the motivation for Wakanda? Like, Wakanda is like, oh, we got to save this one girl. We can sacrifice all of our people. We can sacrifice everything else. We can even sacrifice the entire planet because they, they wouldn't give vibranium to the rest of the world. So they obviously are willing to sacrifice the entire planet. So, but we can't sacrifice this one girl because reasons. It just doesn't make sense. Wakanda's motivations don't make any sense. The next thing is Shuri's, motivations. Like, what are Shuri's motivations in the movie? She's upset about her brother being dead, and she doesn't want this girl to die, this Riri girl to die. Why? We don't know. Really, we don't know. And it's kind of strange. Like, there's no chemistry there. Like, they try to suggest that there's chemistry when they go and meet her, but there's no real chemistry. Had they done a couple things, like really character development is kind of a key thing that was lacking. And it kind of would have been useful to kind of build the motivations between Shuri and Riri. One of the things is they're both the same archetype, really. At the end of the day, they're the same character. The only difference is one builds a Iron Man suit and the other builds a Black Panther suit. That's the difference. Not much difference, but we'll pretend that there's a huge difference in that. So if you think about it, Riri and Shuri have a lot in common. They could become friends. They could share their little technology insights, and they could be like, oh, did you think about doing this? Did you think about doing this? Oh, like, here's how technology, and they could be geeking out. If they geeked out, I would have actually said, oh, they are smart. They are like kind of cool. That would have been nice. I would have liked that, but nope. That's not what we get. Instead, it's like, oh, Riri's so brilliant. Like, she's making like nuclear like technology when she's in diapers kind of thing. I don't know. It's just dumb. You just don't feel like she's like a genius. She doesn't act like a genius. Sorry. Shuri doesn't really play off that, and there's no chemistry between the two girls. It's kind of hard to get behind their motivations. Like, that's a big thing. There's very little motivations behind any of the characters that are logical. And Namor goes even further with his motivations. His motivations go from just getting after this one scientist girl, Riri, to then wanting to kill everybody on the planet because they want to keep themselves a hidden society. Like, it's just like, that's a bit extreme. Like, you can't get your one scientist girl, so you're gonna like commit mass genocide against the rest of the world. That seems very logical. So and they basically, it just doesn't make any sense. There's no motivation there. So that's my first thing that I just thought it was really stupid. The next thing that really bothered me is I'm a geek. My channel is literally Comic Collector Geek. And the geek is the big part because I'm a total geek. I'm a total techno nerd. I love technology. I love sci-fi. And, I love the idea of Wakanda. I love the idea that, a meteorite hits and it somehow makes this one, what we would normally think of as a backwater or place that's so back, in terms of technology. Like, we think of Africa as like light years behind the rest of the world. Well, it's kind of cool that there's this Wakanda place, this place of, super advanced technology. And what do they do? What do they do? When they fight, they use spears. It's just like, Really? Are you really going to go that way? It's just, it seems such a primitive way of fighting. They kind of want to make it like African like, but if you're so advanced, you wouldn't be fighting hand to hand, and you wouldn't be fighting with spears. You just wouldn't. Even if they're great spears, even if they're vibranium spears, you just wouldn't do it. It's a very primitive way of fighting. It's something that we did 1,000 years ago. We being the less advanced society than Wakanda. If we did it 1,000 years ago, well, Wakanda probably gave it up many thousands years ago, and they're way past that. It just doesn't make any sense. And there was a scene that really, really hit home in terms of how stupid, like just like utterly, utterly insane scene. Like they decide to go out and fight Namor and his people. And they go out with this big submarine, this massive submarine. It's like huge. And, the way you use a submarine is it's a stealth weapon. Okay. You basically sneak up on your enemy and you blast them out of the water, either on the surface or under the water in this case. And that's what they should have done. They should have just gone to whatever Namor's, place is called and blown it out of the water. Just, bye-bye, enemy. You're done. That would have been easy. Instead, they take this sub and they surface to the they go up and they all stand up on the deck of the sub. And that's where they decide to fight, on the deck of a sub. Now, technology thing, you don't use subs that way. You don't fight like if the Germans during the Second World War had taken their subs up to the American ships or the British ships and then surfaced and then stood on the deck and said, "Hey, we're going to fight you now," they would have been dead. Okay, the British or the Americans would have just blasted the crap out of those wow, I'm saying U2, which is a rock band. Would have blasted those German subs just totally out of the water. So the funny thing is, it just doesn't make sense. Why would you stand on the deck of a sub and have hand-to-hand battle with, both groups are supposed to be super advanced technologically, and why would you fight hand-to-hand and, misusing your technology that you show that you have? Like, you have this massive sub that you built. Why are you using it in a weird way? It's sort of like, there was a movie, I think it's like Ishtar or something. It's a really bad movie, actually. It was some stupid movie. It was like either Ishtar or some other movie during the 80s. I remember it. And they basically sold weapons to people in the Middle East. And there was a scene where they basically, what they were doing was they were buying these like F-16s or whatever, some expensive plane. And they didn't know how to fly the planes. That was the joke. And what they would do is they would put them at the top of a hill and roll them down on their enemies. These like $100 million planes, they'd just roll them onto their enemies. And that's how they would fight, because they just didn't get the technology that they had. Well, that's how I felt Wakanda was like. It was like they had this amazing technology and then they choose not to use it in any particular way, shape, or form. That just didn't make any sense. Another scene that was kind of same idea, kind of stupid, like way of using technology, was they have the scene where they open up the shield. Wakanda is kind of covered in this massive shield that camouflages it and protects it, which is kind of cool. But what happens is basically when they want to open up the shield, instead of just pushing a button, which is what any advanced society would do, like if you have something that's that key to protection of your whole society, well, you'd have like some kind of button that you would use to open and close it wherever and whenever you would want. Instead, they have people that are standing right by the edge of this thing. Why they have to stand right next to the edge of the opening. And they have to play the drums, these water drums, not just drums, but water drums, in order to open up the shield, which is a very slow way of doing it. That's like, you got to wait for the water to kind of come up. You got to play the little drum and then it opens up. Well, that's really slow and ineffective way of managing shield operations. Just very technologically dumb. And it just bothered me. It's just like these little things. I probably nobody noticed this. Everyone else, oh, that's so cool. But for me, being a techno nerd, I just really got annoyed by it. It was just, and it wasn't just that. They just kept on doing it throughout over and over again, where they're just doing things that just showed a real lack of technology. And it wasn't just Wakanda. I'm gonna, not just blame Wakanda for weird technology that's stupid. There was also on the on Namor's side, he had these water bombs, okay, and it just they basically would blow up and spray water, okay, and that was somehow dangerous. I don't know, like, oh no, we're gonna get wet, and supposedly people are getting killed by these water bombs. And then they had the scene where the big sub has this opening in the bottom because of stupidity of the way that they used it. But and then the Namor's group gets a whole bunch of these awesome water bombs, and they basically float them up into the submarine. Okay, so they're water bombs first of all, which is dumb. But the second thing is they wouldn't float. Water, when in a metal container, does not float. That's what causes ships to sink. Ships sink because you've replaced the air that kind of gives it buoyancy with water. So if you have a thing that's metal and you put water inside of it and fill it up, it's not going to float. So it didn't make sense that they would float up into the hold of the submarine. So that really bothered me too. I just, I'm a physics major. This doesn't make sense. It's just like, this is not logical in any particular way. And things like that, I just get bothered by. I like sci-fi. If they're going to use sci-fi in this kind of technological advancement or futuristic society, I'd like it to make sense. Just like it to be logical. Just, why are they fighting hand to hand? Why are they, they should just be blasting each other, not even flying over to blast each other. They should just be literally pressing a button and, oh, bye-bye, you're gone. We can do that now with our technology. We can basically sit a million miles away from where we need to be and just blast the crap out of something. Wakanda is supposed to be light years ahead of us. They should be able to just literally blast things out of, from big range. It just doesn't make sense. I know they want to show, I know it's more interesting to have the hand-to-hand combat, but logically it didn't make any sense. And the way that the situations where they set it up didn't make sense. So I was really bothered by that. So that's one thing that really bothered me. The technology and the way it was used totally didn't make sense. The next thing that's kind of a weird one is I actually didn't like the colonizers. So one of the things that was in the movie is they had Everett Ross, and he was in the first movie, and he was the sort of the butt of all the jokes. Like they would just make fun of him. He was the token white guy in the movie, and he was just somebody that they'd make fun of. And this movie was basically, his role was the same. Like he was there to be made fun of, and he served no purpose. Like actually, if he had just been removed from the whole movie and they just focused on Wakandans and the Namor's group, I would have just been fine with that, because it just didn't make sense. He didn't add anything to the story. He didn't advance the plot in any particular way. He just seemed like sort of useless for the most part. He didn't do anything. It just, to me, it didn't make any sense. That whole side character thing, I think, could have been removed, and it would have made the movie a lot tighter, shorter, and maybe not so boring. It was a really boring movie. That would have been nice. I would have removed the colonizers. And also, like, why insult people? Why insult, like, just because they're white, you don't have to insult them. I know that that's the cool thing to do nowadays, but it wasn't necessary. It just didn't add anything to the movie. It wasn't even funny. Like, it was just, very, waste of anything, any story that could have been there. There was no point to it. So I didn't like the colonizers. That could have been removed. They could have been removed. This whole subplot of the US thinking that Wakanda is the one that's doing this thing against them didn't really amount to anything. It didn't really go anywhere. It served no purpose for the story. It could have been completely ignored. It could have been just focused on Wakandans and the Namor's people. That's it. That's where it should have been. Focus on that. The rest wasn't necessary. It didn't really help the story in any way. So that really bothered me. So just probably other people thought it was great. I didn't think it was great. Okay. The other thing that bothered me was some of the character choices. I don't know how to say it, but Shuri and Riri really bothered me. I actually thought, like, as a general rule, throughout the whole entire movie, I actually liked the acting. I thought the acting was good for pretty much all the people involved. However, I don't know, maybe I should have called this comment, this fourth thing. Wow, fourth thing, really physical fitness, maybe. Because really what I felt when I watched Shuri become Black Panther is, what if there's any wind, she's just going to blow away, because she's so tiny. She's just like paper thin, like literally paper thin. There's just nothing to her. M'Baku, when he was on the screen, you felt his presence. He was a big dude and he was threatening. Shuri on the screen, you feel like, oh, she's kind of cute. When I say cute, I mean, like, she's petite, little, small, childlike, that kind of cute. She was not Black Panther. Black Panther is not cute. Black Panther is menacing. Black Panther is strong. He's fierce. Okay? Shuri didn't fit those things. Like, they could have made other actors would have been better as Black Panther. Like the woman who played Michonne or Okoye, she had that sort of presence. You could feel like she's a strong, tough woman. She can handle her own. She can do what she needs to do. You could see her in the suit and just being a dominant force. Shuri, not so much. So I just couldn't get behind this wafy girl being the Black Panther. I think they should have gotten a different actress almost, or gotten her some food. Just maybe fed her beforehand would have been nice. She needed to gain at least 20 pounds of muscle. So I didn't really felt like she was a good character. The other character that really bothered me was Riri. I just felt like Riri was just not memorable. I didn't really get any personality from her. I didn't really get that she was super smart. I didn't really get that she was kind of cool in any particular way. Like, I didn't really get her personality. I didn't feel like, like, if you said that she was even in the movie, I'd almost be like, oh, really? Was she in the movie? No, she just didn't have any presence on the screen. She didn't have any, there's nothing there. Like, there's nothing that really engaged me with her as a character, and I don't feel like I know her as a character. It was kind of a maybe missed opportunity. Like, had they taken out maybe some of the other character development that they did, or story development that they did that was totally useless, and maybe given more of a backstory to Riri, that might have been a good way to kind of balance it out, but they didn't. So I just felt like Riri was kind of like, eh. And then when you see her like in their suit for the first time, again, back with the technology, I really didn't feel like her suit looked very good. It looked very cheesy. It almost looked like anime. It just didn't look as cool as the Iron Man suit did. And I just, I didn't, I never really buy it. Like, I just couldn't buy that it was like she was cool. And I actually didn't like Riri for another reason. When there was one opportunity that she didn't really do much overall for the story, anyways. But there was one scene where she was helping out, and there was this drone that was watching them, and she decides that, oh, she got to take out that drone because they can't get away from the police if this drone is following where they're going. So she flies up, and she kind of has her Iron Man moment where they kind of do that same thing where Tony Stark goes up and his controls freeze and he drops out of the sky. Well, they did that with Riri, and it was like painfully obvious that they were homaging that. And she goes up, which would have been dumb. She's like technology again. She's wearing a suit that does not protect her from the elements, doesn't have air, doesn't protect her from the atmosphere. Like, it is cold up there. Once you go up a certain height, it is cold and you'll freeze to death. Your skin will literally freeze instantly. Like, it just, you will die. So she goes up, she should be dead, but yet she takes out this drone and she shoots down the drone. So after that, though, she not only comes back down, but then there's these cop cars that are following like the other girls, and she blows them up. Okay, so that means that she just killed a bunch of innocent police officers that were just there to do a proper arrest. You know, totally not necessary, and just doesn't make me say that this is a good person. Like, just that, and that's the only thing that I have to judge her by, is the fact that she would kill innocent police officers for the sake of killing innocent police officers. There was no reason to do that. Just really bad. So that bothered me. I didn't like Riri. I didn't like Shuri. I liked her, the actress, and I thought she was a good actress, but I didn't like her as the Black Panther. So that, and then one other actor that I have to say that I liked but didn't like was Namor, or Namor. Like, it's like once it gets into your head, that Namor, just like, because I like the French idea. Like, I like it, never love. I actually kind of like that idea, but he doesn't look like Namor. He just doesn't look like Namor. Namor, if you see him, he's badass looking. He's a big guy. He's strong. He's in the comics. He's a presence. He's huge. He's like, in some they show him as being like a giant and just like crushing ships. He is a big guy. He's fit. He's muscly. Well, the actor that they had playing Namor was flabby, kind of out of shape looking guy. He's a big guy, but he's out of shape. He just didn't look like, he should have maybe transferred some of that weight over to Shuri, like give her some of the weight, and done some more exercise, less carbs. Maybe that's my recommendation to that actor. Just, he didn't look fit. He didn't look like he should be, this guy that is menacing and, somebody that you should be worried about. He did his presence, though. He was a good actor, and he did kind of compensate for that fact that he was out of shape with his overall acting presence. And so I kind of give him a bit of a pass, but I want him to work out. I want my superheroes or my supervillains to look the part. They have to look super. So that would be my criticism of those three characters. And the last thing that really bothered me about the movie in general was that I paid to go see it. I feel like I should have just waited and saw it when it came out on rental or like on streaming service. It'll probably be on Disney Plus in a few months. I probably could have waited. It was not worth paying. I spent about $100 to go see it because I had to pay for my kids to go. We had to get popcorn. It was just, the tickets, it's just expensive. And was it really worth the price to go? Probably not. I would have rather just stream it. That's my opinion. I'm not even sure if it's even worth streaming. Like that, I spent, it's almost like a 3-hour movie, and it was boring. It just wasn't a good movie. I don't know. Something was missing. And if you can tell me in the comments below what you felt was missing about the movie, there was something that was missing. Something that I just, like, I don't know. Like, I felt like the acting's great. They tried to do some kind of cool action stuff, but something was missing, and it bothered me. I don't know. It was like the whole time I'm like, something's not right here. Something's missing. Maybe it was the lack of Chadwick Boseman. Just his presence kind of carries the movie, and he's not in the movie. They can't bring him back from the dead. He was necessary, and maybe that's what was lacking. So that's my opinion of the movie. my 5 things that really bothered me and that I thought were stupid about the movie. And I might be totally off base. Tell me in the comments below. And what do you think? Did you see the movie? What do you think? All that kind of stuff. I'd love to hear people's feedback. So thanks for watching. Bye for now.